This is an August update on my 112 gallon average reef. For a change, I'm using my phone to shoot this. My wife just picked up some polyplab lenses, and I think this is pretty close to the real color. Normally I use my very old Canon DSLR, which sometimes has the perfect white balance, but sometimes doesn't. Almost everything looks good with this, so I'll just try it out for this month and see how it goes. I've been quite happy with the pictures I've taken with the lens so far. I have had a couple of problems with my tank. For the first time since 2019, I left it alone for almost 3 straight days. I was gone for the first time overnight, and I kind of figured that, well, 1 or 2 things is going to die. That's just the way things go. This Micromucil colony was already struggling, but completely wiped itself out. I also had some other tissue loss on a few other corals. Nothing else is really completely wiped out, maybe 1 or 2 other small frags, but generally there's just a little bit of damage that I guess could be anything. The anything actually turned out to be a rusted out float switch. This is a JBJ auto top off that I got way back in 2011. So it's certainly seen its share of use. Lately the float had been getting stuck and I had to keep resetting it, and I couldn't really figure out why. It turns out it's been rusting out, so there's definitely been some rust and perhaps other things coming from this wire in the tank. Since I'm not entirely sure how long it's been like this, I've been doing daily 10-gallon water changes for the last couple of days. That's nothing major. It's actually a little bit less than 10%. But parameter-wise, I don't think there's anything too wrong with the tank. I kind of just figured, well, this tank is jam-packed. There's many different types of corals. Sometimes things start to die. But now I'm kind of thinking it was probably the rust, as, well, I do lose the occasional thing. I haven't had this much die-off in the tank in quite a while. It's not all bad, though. I added this new soft coral, which was referred to as laminella or something like that. I actually think it's capnella, which is Kenya tree. Because I run my tank relatively white, you can't really tell, but this thing is absolutely glows under blue light, and even under this 15-20K light, it looks pretty good. And then this is the comparison between it and my regular Kenya trees, which certainly have a nice shade of blue compared to a lot of the ones you normally see. I've got even more little baby ghania pores popping up. This is where the original colony was when I cut it off. There was actually almost nothing there, but these have kind of come back from inside the rock. The main colony is doing fine, despite the fact it's constantly irritated by my naked clownfish. Other than the little bits of die-off and losing a few things, everything else is pretty good. Even this chalice just lost a little bit, but I mean, obviously that's going to grow back in probably weeks. The one thing with shooting with the phone is it does tend to overexpose at times, but this is probably a slightly better color than the camera. I know most people shoot with their phones, but I prefer to use an SLR camera whenever possible. One thing that will change in the next couple of days is one of these 2 power heads is going to go. It's either going to be this Coralbox QP16, or more likely this very old Tunes 6065 AC pump. I purchased an IceCap 4K gyre and I'm just waiting for it to arrive. I don't really think it's going to fit on this side. There's only 12 or so inches of glass between the overflow box, plus I have this chalice growing out. So it's probably going to go on this side, but I'll have to wait till I get it and then figure out what I'm going to do as far as the flow pattern. I generally like to have some sort of wave action, particularly for this gorgonian to swing back and forth. And generally I do like to have the movement, since this is, after all, a soft coral dominated system. In the meantime, I'm just going to continue to slowly flush out the system. I don't really know how much the rust really did. I guess in some ways I don't want to know, since all I'm really going to do is a little bit of extra water changes, a little bit of extra carbon. I do have a poly filter in my sump and it hasn't changed color yet, so I don't really think there's any serious heavy metal contamination. 95% of things look pretty good, so I don't think this is anything catastrophic. We'll just have to wait and see. That's really all I have going on in this tank. I've been quite busy with my fish breeding, so I guess I should make some other videos on my other tanks. I guess that's it for the main tank. Thanks for watching, and happy reefing.